It's time now for another 10 weather chat, and we are going to talk today about the year 2023, the weather that we had in review, because it was all over the place.
Not much going on in 2023. All over the place, highly variable, hardly anything close to average, really. Maybe a little bit in spring, but we'll talk more about that coming up.
Yeah, it was all over the place. So let's start with kind of first let's talk about a recap of December of 2022.
Yes.
Because when we talk about winter, we talk about December, January, February being
Right.
the months that are considered to be winter.
Right.
So in December of 2022, we had 1.6 inches of snow.
Right.
We had an Arctic outbreak, pipes burst. It was a mess.
Yeah, did your pipes burst? I mean, it was a mess indeed. 2 straight mornings of 4-degree temperatures. I think we were 3.5 to almost 4 days in a row below freezing. That'll do it.
Yeah, it was wild. It was wild. But that was all the winter that we saw.
That was it. That was winter.
That was the only snow that we got. That was the only cold that we had,
it.
because then we moved into January. It was the 16th warmest January on
Yeah.
record. It was the 2nd warmest February on record. And so when you put all those together, it ended up being the 9th warmest winter. So imagine if you hadn't had that cold snap in December.
Yeah.
How much higher that ranking would have been.
Much higher. I mean,
much higher.
Feast or famine, right? I mean, an Arctic blast like we hadn't seen in a couple of decades or so. And then the warmest winter, not much snow, just that little bit of an inch and a half or so early on.
That was the lowest snow total that we'd had in more than a decade.
More than a decade.
Yep.
Wow.
Crazy. So we started off 2023 very, very warm in
Right.
both January and February. Then we moved into spring, and overall it was pretty mellow.
Yeah.
The temperatures were close to average.
Right. Not too much severe weather, anything.
No.
Fairly mellow.
No, relatively quiet. And then when we talked about anything that was outstanding, it was just that May was the 13th driest.
Yes.
Which kind of balanced out to some of the other months being a little bit on the wet side.
Right.
What we lacked in spring, we made up for in the summer.
Made up for in summer. But rain and storms, especially. Here, this was unusual, Cass.
This was highly unusual. So in August, on August 7th, we had an EF2 tornado go through West Knox County, had maximum winds of 130 miles per hour. The path was 3.8 miles.
Yeah.
It hit an apartment complex, tore the roofs off the homes, knocked down power lines, caused lots of tree damage. You can kind of see the path. It crossed over Pellissippi,
Right.
Just kind of to the north of I-40 out here near Dutchtown Road. It kind of went near Bob Gray Road and out near North Cedar Bluff as well along Middlebrook Pike.
Yeah. A lot of damage. I mean, it was just amazing. There was video of somebody traveling on Pellissippi that caught part of the debris in the funnel when the tornado going across. So it was that was a very bad storm. One of the worst, I guess, strongest tornadoes in Knox County in some 30 years.
In 30 years for Knox County. And then
Knox County,
even more strange was that this happened in August. August is not known for a tornado month.
Not at all.
For us. And so when we looked back at the records, it was only the 7th tornado on record in East Tennessee, all of East Tennessee, in the month of August. And it was the first one in Knox County in the month of August that we have on record.
The first one.
In August.
Unusual indeed. I mean, usually it's right here, right? Hot and humid, August, the jet stream's far to the north. What you say, Cass, what we didn't get in spring, we made up for in August.
And we did the same with rain.
And with rain,
by the way.
Yes.
On August 15th, the Cherry-Hale Skyway was washed out.
Yep.
It was closed for a little while. It has since reopened.
Yep.
But we just had a ton of rain. August ended up being the 10th wettest August.
Yep.
And we had the 10th wettest summer. So being June, July, August.
Right.
On record as well. But then the spigot completely shut off when we moved into fall.
It just shut off indeed. And we've seen that happen sometimes. As you know, and you've heard us talk about, we were making those comparisons to 2016, which you don't really want to go back there but it was similar dry conditions to what we saw then. Spigot just shut off indeed.
It did. I mean, we've already done a 10 weather chat on how dry the fall was, but September was tied for the 5th driest. October was tied for the 11th driest that we've had. We had very minimal rain in those 2 months. Wildfires began to develop. The drought got a lot worse across the area. We had exceptional drought start to develop, and then the rain finally came on November 21st.
Thankfully, right before Thanksgiving. Something to be thankful for. It finally came, exactly. And that's almost similar to what happened in 2016. It finally came at the end of the month. I think we ended up being above average. That's a side note, but very dry fall, and that created a lot of issues. And so, that kind of led to what we're seeing right there. What is that? Only less than 3 inches of rain.
In 3 months.
In 3 months.
We had a huge deficit. It was almost 8 inches of a deficit just for those 3 months. That's how much rain we were missing, because we only had 28% of our average rainfall in those 3 months combined.
Wow, almost 8 inches. That tells us
crazy. So it was the 2nd driest fall on record. by a long shot. If we had not had that rain on November 21st, by a long shot we would have been.
We would have been.
The
we were on
driest
track.
fall. Yeah, and it was the 13th warmest fall as well, because warm and dry kind of tend to go together with that.
Yes.
Then we ended up having rain in December.
Yep.
So we made up, we only had a surplus of what, almost 2 inches?
Yeah, I think.
Or no, I guess it was just over an inch.
Just over an inch, I think it was.
So we finished the year, because we were so wet in August.
Yeah.
We finished the year with just over a 4-inch deficit.
Right.
When we came out to rainfall, which just does not tell the story of how wet it was in the summer and how dry it was in the fall.
Yeah, and we've talked about, again, going back to that 2016 example, sometimes you can't just look at the monthly total. You got to look at it for context the whole month, because one day can have 3 or 4 inches of rain, and that pretty much takes care of the whole month. But a lot of times, if you're really, really dry beforehand, that's more the bigger story there.
So December kind of tells the story of what Todd was just saying. You got to look at the whole big picture, because when you look at December 2023, it came out with just over 6 inches of rain. The average is 5, so we had that 1-inch surplus. But look at these dry days, all that yellow on there.
Yeah.
That dry stretch, though, was negated by 2.26 inches of rain on Saturday the 2nd. That was a new daily rainfall record that day. We had over an inch on the 10th, almost an inch on the 26th.
Right, almost 8/10 here. I mean, 3 or 4 days in the whole month make up a lot of that rainfall total.
It did, and the T's that you see on here, by the way, account for a trace of rainfall, meaning that it wasn't enough to be measured, but something landed in the bucket.
Yeah,
and
that's not for Tennessee, that's just Tennessee.
Go Vols. Yeah, right. And then where you see the aqua T's right there, those are traces of snowfall. So not measurable, but like a snowflake hit the pad out there, and so it was measured as snow, but nothing measurable in December, so we have a snowfall deficit going on. And I actually was looking it up, and I don't think I have it.
Nice touch, by the way. Cassie did that, put the aqua in there. For
Mike Simon did.
Mike Simon, there you go.
Mike Simon did it.
Way to go, Mike.
Go Mike.
Yeah.
I was just looking up one of the things. This is only the 4th or 5th, I think 4th year that we haven't had a low temperature in the teens since 1871, when our records began. We also, I think it was only the 7th year that we did not have a high temperature below freezing.
Okay, yeah,
because normally you would.
That occurred December 22. We had 4 days below, but then not in 2023.
Yeah, and we had no measurable snowfall from January 1st to December 31st. Wow. Normally we measure snowfall as a seasonal thing, kind of the cold season, but so I haven't been able to look up how that works with the calendar year, but yeah, just highly unusual weather from that standpoint.
You talk about feast and famine. I just happened to look before we came on to do this. You know, the previous winter, we had over 12 inches of snow. And then whoosh, this past year, hardly anything. Zilch. Just early on, got everything taken care of. But anyway, it sometimes is like that. The ups and downs, or the extremes, the feast and famine.
And we talked about that with our El Nino 10 weather chat and our winter weather outlook for what we expected, both of those, if you want to go find those. We're starting to see more of that classic El Nino pattern starting to kick up now with the more active weather pattern and just the storm track being more active across the southeast. So that's definitely going to mean that 2024 is going to look different than 2023 did.
Just from the active subtropical jet, the El Nino. And you'll be seeing us talk about that. Storm tracks, favorable patterns. That's something we often look at in the wintertime, and especially this year with a strong El Nino. Yeah, so what happened last year is probably not going to be the same thing this year, because we just have an entirely different setup on the large scale patterns. I will say 2023 ended up being the 5th warmest year on record. 61.3 degrees was the average temperature. The 30-year average is 59.6. So that's quite a bit above average. And if we look at those numbers right there, 7 of those top 10 have been since 2007. And the top 5, 4 of the top 5 have been in the last 12 years. So that's just something to note, that we've seen a warmer trend in the 21st century when we look at all of these ending up there. We have had cooler years in there as well, but we've had more of them be on the warmer side. Yeah, you can see that's the evidence right there. Like you said, top 5, yes, since 2012. Wow, that's impressive. Yeah, it's a lot. So now we've moved into 2024, and we'll see what 2024 has in store for us. That's right. Well, as Cash said, different. Yeah, and every year's different in general, but yeah, we'll see what we get, and we'll certainly do our best to keep you updated. Now that we're officially in winter, yes, you'll be hearing us talk more about favorable winter storm tracks and what we may see here in East Tennessee. That's right. So thanks so much for joining us. Have a great rest of your day.